Good morning. Welcome to my Posh Pooch Designs live video chat. And as you can see, I've got my smiley face. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later. I just wanted to show it to you at the beginning. This is my emoji smile pillow. And I'll discuss this a little bit later about what I'm doing with this. So, and this is a new pattern on YouTube and on my blog, but we'll talk about that after a little bit. Does everybody have their coffee today? Make sure you have your coffee ready and sip along with us, because although this is a Facebook live chat, it's also coffee time for us who love to crochet, knit, or play with yarn and drink coffee. But you don't have to drink coffee to tune in. Well, good morning, everybody. Clink! Trish, good morning. I hope everyone had a fantastic Independence Day celebration for 4th of July. My husband and I went and camped with our RV and the dogs up on this beautiful campsite called Clear River, I think. Clear River? I can't remember. Anyway, it was absolutely gorgeous. The mountains were beautiful. Everything was wonderful. We took the Jeep up and did a lot of bouncing. So I'm a little sore. My wrist is sore from hanging on to the side of the car and just hanging on tight because my wrist is sore. But anyway, everything was wonderful except the mosquitoes were like crazy. Anyway, I hope everyone had a wonderful 4th of July and did lots of celebrating and spent time with family. Well, today our discussion is about why does my yarn have knots? And actually, knots in yarn is a very common occurrence. Many times, good morning, Brandy. Many times, any yarn company, whether it's a small yarn company or big, you will find knots occasionally in your yarn, and sometimes you'll find several right in a row. And the reason is, when the yarn is processed, it's on great, huge spools. And then they hook it together and they just tie a simple knot. And that knot is not intended for you to leave in. It's intended for you to take it out. And the reason they tie those knots in there is so they can keep the process going to roll the skeins or the balls of yarn or the hanks or whatever, the way they're doing it. And the reason that there's knots is because when it comes to the end of a great big bolt, they tie a knot, and then they get that thing going again, and it just keeps it going because they're on enormous spools. If you're really interested in how that works, Red Heart has a video. I'll have to find that. I do have it on one of my blogs, but you can just Google how Red Heart yarn is made, and it explains the process of how they turn crude oil into yarn and how they get the colors and how they spool it on great big spools and how they end up putting it into skeins and balls. But like I said, every yarn company is going to have knots occasionally in your yarn. Don't get mad at them. Don't yell at them. It's a normal thing. And the thing is, the knot that they tie in there is not intended to stay in there. And when they have to do that, just so that you understand, they usually give you a few extra yards when they tie a knot because they want you to be able to have enough yarn to finish your project and weave in your ends together. Now, there are two ways. That I like to do. A lot of people just tie a knot and keep going, and I don't do that all the time because I don't think that knot's going to hold. And the knot that the company, especially Red Heart and like Lion Brand, put in, like I said, it's not intended to stay in there. It's just intended to hold the yarn together so they can keep the spool going. Because if you'll notice, when you get a skein of yarn, you know, the yarn's not tight. It's loose and everything. So they just put a knot that'll hold long enough to keep the process of that yarn going and able to be wound or wounded. That's not a word. Able to be wound into the skeins or the ball of yarn. Okay, so one of the ways that I like to, the best way to me is if I'm doing a project that I'm crocheting in rows and I see that I'm coming to the end of my yarn, what I do is I get to the end, and if I don't have enough to do a whole row, if I'm doing a smaller project, I'll take it out and end at another end. That way I have an end to work with. And I'll do my last stitch, and then I'm going to use a different color so you can see. And then I'll join that yarn in like this. Let me pull that back out because I didn't do that correctly. Before I finish that last stitch, pull one. And this is single crochet, so I'm going to end up with 2 loops on my hook, just like this. And before I finish that, I'm going to hook my next color in and pull that through, snug that up, and then chain 1. And what that does is I'm changing my, and this works whether you're changing colors or not. I'm just showing you so that you can see what I did with the blue yarn and the yellow yarn. And then I continue, and then I'll have these 2 weave in my ends later. That's what I do when I'm knitting a straight across. Okay, now if I'm knitting in the round like this, here's one where I if I'm crocheting in the round, what I do is when I come to the end where I'm going to join on my next round, I put my hook in and I put my hook through where, like, if I was doing a chain 1 and I'm going to join the top of that chain 1, I'll put my hook through where I normally would go through, and then the next color I'm joining in, I just pull that through there, and then chain 1 or however many I did on that stitch. Now, what I do, like this one, there's a hole long here, but if I don't have enough to do a whole nother row, rather than stop in the middle of a row, I change at the end of that round, I should say, round. And that's what I do when I'm stitching a smallish project, or I know that I'm going to be the end of a row if I'm doing straight rows and I'm doing rounds. That's what I do. But what do I do if I'm in the middle of, say, a large round or a large row? How do I join those together? Because you don't want to stop in the middle and have a change of color, for one thing, or even if you're using the same color, you don't want to tie a knot. You want something that's going to stay. So what I'm going to show you is this. This is called, it's been called a Russian join and some other names. This is the best way to do it. And I'm showing you with 2 colors so that you can see how it works. And what you'll do is with one, this is the, we'll say this is the end of your crochet, and you're in the middle of a row. So we're going to thread that on a needle. And then what we're going to do is, actually I don't really want to thread that on the needle just yet. What we're going to do, see if I can explain this a little better, because I do it a little bit different than other people. Okay, a lot of people will fold it over and take their needle and stitch through like this. Pull that through and form a loop. You can do it that way. A lot of times I just kind of wrap it a couple of times like this. And then what you'll do with your next color is you'll put it through this loop just like this, and then pull this piece right here to snug it up, just like that. And you can take your needle just like that and stitch back through this yarn. And then if you pull both of those loose strands, it'll pull it in tight. And then all you do, for instance, you're gonna, this is my ball about rolled off the table. For instance, let's just say I'm stitching right here. I'll make a little slip stitch. And I'm stitching here, okay? Let's do this. Okay, then all you do is you just go right over what you've done and you just keep going. Now you will get a little extra thickness, and I'm showing you with a thick yarn so you can see it. You will get a little extra thickness, but it will allow you to keep going with the same color of yarn, and then as you go over and stitch, when you stitch, you can cut off those extra strands, and you don't have to weave in any ends. I hope that made sense, because basically you're just you know, making a loop and then putting your other yarn through that loop just like this. Oops, dropped it. You know, you're basically making 2 loops like this. And you use the needle to sew it in to each other in order to keep it snug. Now, if you're making a large project, like say a blanket, and you want to just go ahead and stitch over those, that's fine. You can do that without sewing it down. But make sure you go back in with your needle and weave those ends in, because you don't want your ends to come out. And that's basically what I do. I try, if I'm doing a round or if I'm doing rows, I try really hard to get to the end of the row before I attach my next, whether it's the same color or a new color, because that makes less bumps and knots. And then, you know, after you finish your rows, all you have to do is take your needle and weave those ends in, and it will hold just fine. Oh, good. Good, I'm glad. Alexandra posted the video about how red heart's made. It is really interesting. I learned a lot off of that, and it's really fun to find out how yarns are made. You know, we always think they're made out of, you know, wool, and wool is made out of wool, of course, but acrylic yarn is not, and it's really fun to find out how it's made. Thank you for posting that, Alexandra. So anyway, that's what I do. My goal when I crochet is to have the least amount of ends to weave in as possible and the least amount of knots. Now, another thing that you can do after you've done this and you've got those strands, you can hold them over and stitch across them as you do your next row, and that will hold them in. It's the same thing with the round. When that was the round. The same thing with the round as the straight rows. Those strands you have laying out extra where you added your yarn, you can stitch across them. And after you're done with your project, just make sure you go back in and use your needle and make sure all your ends are have been weaven. Is that a word? Woven? I have such a hard time with the word woven. I don't know why. Anyway, make sure that your ends have been woven in. Weave them in. Because we want our projects and our art, because to me they're art, we want them to last forever, don't we? I mean, when I make something, I don't make it unless I'm just giving it away, and it's up to them, you know, what they do with it. But when I make something, it's so important to me, and it's art, and I want it to last as long as possible. And that's why weaving in is so important. And this Russian join method, I'm pretty sure that's what they call it. I've seen it called other things, you know, like the perfect method or foolproof method. You know, it is a really great way to do it. And I'm all about doing things that work great, but that are easy. Work smarter, not harder. That's my goal. So anyway, that's our just a little talk this morning. But back to the pillow. I love this little pillow. It turned out so perfect. I did the video on this early this morning, and I went ahead and edited it. And it does have my dogs barking in it a little bit, but it's okay. Because what you need to understand about me is I'm not all about being a professional. I'm just about having fun and getting the patterns out there for people to use and have fun with them. And the goal in this little pattern is to brighten up somebody else's day. You know, there's been a lot of issues lately. There's a lot of sadness going on around the world. There's a lot of negativity in America, and a lot of people that are hurting that are my friends and people that I care about. And I thought, what a great thing to do is to make a little pillow. And like I said, make one for you and make one to give away. And they whip up really fast. I think I made the first one in about 45 minutes. Because you're using chunky yarn, and it's only about a 10-inch across pillow. And it takes a tiny bit of stuffing, and it has these great big heart eyes on it. And you can do round eyes if you want to. I just really wanted to do the heart ones to let people know that I care about them. And then you can make it. And I thought it would be fun to put a little tag that says, "Do you need a hug today?" and hand these out to people that you see maybe having a rough time. The little heart eyes that say, "I care." I mean, they don't say "I care." The hearts mean "I care." I love you, I care. And a great big smile to brighten someone's day. So that's what the whole thing is about, the emoji smile pillow. I added it on Ravelry, and I added it on my blog, and it's on YouTube, so you can find it all over the place. And just it's just really easy to make. So, like I said, make one for you so you can keep it. And make one for someone that you care about and give it away. Aren't these the cutest thing? I like to go like this. It's not crazy. Okay. Well, that's the pillow I was talking about today. Now, we finally did get our what I called the convertible headscarf. We got the pattern all tested. It's all ready to go. And it's really, really easy. I just wanted to make sure the ends of the scarf, because they go to a point. And the beginning's easy, but I keep saying but the end was a little confusing. So I wanted to make sure that was all ready, and the pattern's ready, and I hope to have the video ready in the next day or two for that. That pattern. And then the other video, I still have to edit the video, but it is ready, is this one that we started last week on because this is also a product review for this beautiful thread that was sent to me. And I did the technique just chaining and adding some groups of beads. And I want to do a product video on that one. That one should be ready to post tomorrow. It's real simple, real short, nothing major on that one. So my goal in my YouTube channel, I've had a few questions as why mine are weird or different. Because, you know, I'm not your typical, you know, sit-at-home granny that wants to crochet and make a few videos. And I'm also not into making my stuff like everybody else's as far as my videos and my patterns and things. And so sometimes I may word things that don't make sense in my videos or in my patterns. I mean. So my goal is to make videos. Hang on 2 seconds. Let me grab some coffee. Dry this morning. Anyway, my goal is some of my patterns, like my Downton Abbey patterns, they're not pattern tutorials. They're just to answer some questions. And so some of the videos you'll find on YouTube may be just parts of the pattern to answer some questions, a tricky stitch or something. And I always put the blog post for the free pattern on YouTube in the comments so you'll have that. So you can reference back and forth. Some of my patterns will be pattern tutorials. So it just depends on what's going on. And I like to make my live videos fun. I don't want them all just to be sitting here talking in a monotone voice. I am a fun person, and I love to have fun. And I love to get to know the people who like my patterns or who've tried my patterns. So go ahead and go to my YouTube channel, like all the ones that you want, watch all the ones that you want. And like I said, if you ever have a problem, because sometimes I talk too fast and sometimes I go too fast. And my goal is not to have really long videos because I get bored really easy. And if a video is more than 25-30 minutes, I may not watch the whole thing because I might get bored. So what I'm trying to do is not make my videos, oh, thank you, Trish. She loves my videos. But what I have a few that go almost 30 minutes, and that's because there's a little more detail. This one here, I think, is about 25 minutes because I show you how to do the pillow and the eyes. And but my goal really is not to make really long videos. I just want to show you what we're doing, and so you can make it and make sure you've got the pattern there. Okay, so now that we're into July, we're going to be starting. We have a few things lined up for this week and the beginning of next week. And then we're going to be starting Christmas in July. And what I have is a couple of new things, but I'm also going to be doing some of my patterns from last year's Christmas in July and also Christmases from the past. And what we're going to be doing, hi Lynn, that's my sister-in-law. Thanks for tuning in. Anyway, but what we're going to be doing is I have a lot of patterns that from the past that people have had questions on. And so what we're going to do in our videos is I'm going to choose about 10 or 12 different Christmas patterns. And some of them, hey, some of them will be photo tutorial or video tutorials, and some of them will be just answering questions on the patterns. I've got some fun ones too, some silly ones. One of my most requested ones is the one that I did with the dog poop Christmas ornament. People are so funny, and you know the funny thing about that one, and I don't have one with me to show you, but you'll see that because that's one of the first videos that I'm going to do for the Christmas in July. And it's so funny because I got a lot of negative comments, but I got a lot of positive comments too, and it just came out from my grandkids were here over Christmas and they wanted to pick up dog poo in the front yard, and so I let them. And then my son-in-law was like, you ought to make a Christmas ornament. Oh, so I did, and it's been a really popular pattern, and it's so funny. I have people who have bought them for me to make them, you know, several of them as gag gifts. And a really neat thing that came out of it is a lot of the dog rescues at Christmas time. I've made a bunch of them, I've donated them, and they've also bought them to do for raffles at Christmas time. So even though it's a silly pattern, it turned out to be really good. So anyway, so that's what you have to look forward to, a couple of new patterns this week and next week, and then lots of fun Christmas in July. We've got a little mini mitten we're going to do, and I'll have to show you this one from this Christmas. Let me grab that real quick. This is also one we're going to do. This is the, it's called the Ugly Sweater Mug Rug or whatever, something like that. This is one we're also going to do also because it was asked about so much. And that's what I do. So this is what you need to do. Go to my blog and go into my free patterns. At the top of the tab it says free patterns, and scroll down to the Christmas category and look at them and just let me know. Oh, thanks, Alexandra. And let me know which ones you really want me to do a video on, because I do want to go ahead and do a bunch off of the Christmas ones I already have, and I do have some new ones that we're going to be putting out for our Christmas in July fun. So anyway, that's what's going on this week at Posh Pooch Designs. And like I said, make a emoji smile pillow, make one for yourself, and make one to give away to brighten up somebody else's day. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Keep smiling, and as my granddaughter said the other day, stay crafty, my friends. Have a wonderful day.